pub battles, Brandywine. Cornwallis is entering from the northeast, so the game begins on turn 4. The rest of the column is remaining off map because if these guys for some reason have to retreat, they'll retreat right into these guys, and that would not be good. Washington has shifted Morgan to the woods here, with the militia in front, hoping that Morgan can pull another victory like he did at Cowpens. Kniphausen shells Nash's North Carolinians, doing some damage. This time Sullivan's chit has been drawn last, which is what you want when you're trying to organize a fighting withdrawal, because now he can simply fall back from these contacts, thus simulating a fighting withdrawal. Turn 5. Kniphausen's artillery continues to play heavily on the North Carolinians, and they fall back from the river's edge. Kniphausen advances forward, but he does not cross. His orders are simply to demonstrate. Hold the colonials along the river. Cornwallis is drawn next. This is very beneficial for the colonials, as again, they can simply retreat from the contact. It's a fighting withdrawal. Up here, the dragoons are not fighting the colonial dragoons. Disaster could strike, they could be forced back, and the whole point is to keep them from flanking the advancing infantry. I'm going to true in my divider here. To 1/3. Now here I want to be able to fall back as far as 1/3, or if I have to retreat 1/3 without running into Dan Morgan's ambush here. Washington moves the artillery up to cover any advance across Jones Ford. Turn 6. Cornwallis is drawn first, but sooner or later the colonials will have to hold. This time Sullivan falls back quite a bit further. Now Dan Morgan's riflemen are on the front. Kniphausen moves up the artillery. Henry Knox's artillery opens up and plays havoc with Kniphausen's artillery as they attempt to set up. Turn 7. Knox continues his artillery fire, though with much lessened effect. Sullivan's chit has been drawn next. This is the first time this game that Sullivan has gone ahead of the British. This is where the smack comes down. This time, Cornwallis chooses who fights where. Abercrombie advances, but he stays 1/3 back in the unlikely event that the elite grenadiers get pushed back. Who could imagine such a thing? Kniphausen sends Ferguson's Highlanders with their broadswords across the Brandywine. You will notice here that the bridge is actually here, and theoretically this would be like, it gets messy. So I put that there, put that there. Let's not get gamey. The blocks are cool. We're going to play with the blocks. We're going to use the blocks effectively. So there you have it. Ordinarily this would be like this, but we're trying to get it to fit in with the artillery on the hill. This works. Now green has been drawn. Green cannot flank attack this because of the stream. It's not ripe for a flank attack yet, and he's been ordered to hold Chad's Ford as well as Pyle's Ford. So he will continue to do that. Now up here, Dan Morgan's militia they did even better than you would think. All he wanted them to do was fire once and run home and tell their sweeties they fought in the battle. They fired twice. They fired 3 times. They ran home. They were expected to last 1 turn and try to do something. They were hoping they could at least take off the automatic loss so Morgan could face the elites on even terms, but they actually did 3 hits. So this has been just hot for the colonials this time. So one hit is absorbed by the elite. The second hit flips it to spent, and the third hit forces it to retreat. It's a good thing Abercrombie stayed back. In a massive and surprising victory for the Americans, this time, this is my custom unit, Strand's Minnesotans. Replaced a different unit in Sullivan's command with that. First, they scored 3 hits, and the 1st Minnesota at Brandywine drove back the British elite guards and the Hessians, the hated Hessians. And here at Brenton's Ford, the Virginians drove off Ferguson's Scots, but the Hessians pushed them back and made it across. The British have been doing no damage, and the Americans have been getting 2 and 3 hits at a time. So it's a perfect storm, combat-wise, although they did get across here. Final turn. Cornwallis is drawn first. This is not good. And the British dragoons said, screw it, we're going to hit him hard. Pulaski's dragoons fight a little bit and ride off. Washington moves his supplies back towards Dilworth. Knox's artillery fails to do any damage, and the North Carolinians move down to push the Hessians back across the Brandywine. End of game combat. Finally, end of the night, Dan Morgan's riflemen come across Abercrombie's lights. 2 and 3 hits respectively. 2 hits reduces Abercrombie to spent, and 3 hits drives back Maxwell's lights. Sterling is going to retreat with them. Consider it a fighting withdrawal up to Birmingham Hill. There's no reason to die here. Here on the colonial right, Maxwell delivers a full volley into the Abercrombie's light troops and then simply retreats away. Here in the center, things are a little different. They could have retreated away, but they wanted to stay. They did not expect Grant's men to come across and flank them. This is brutal, and the 1st Minnesota goes down in a hail of gunfire, and the Colonials retreat. They do 1 damage. Matthews absorbs that at the end of that combat. Here on the Brandywine, the British are pushed back, but not without losses by the Colonials. So the Battle of Brandywine ends. The British have achieved no losses, no significant losses, so that's good. The Colonials have lost 3 units. So if you just go by sheer points, it would be a British marginal victory. They've done some damage to the Colonials. They'll pull back, they'll save face. They were trying to hold the British at the Brandywine. That didn't happen, it wasn't going to happen. But they stood toe-to-toe with the British, and they escaped with their army largely intact. And I will say at this point that this was very, very lucky chit draws and even luckier dice. But a very fun game nevertheless.